composer, the most intimidating moment is before you start writing something, to see that blank page. And when you see that blank page, sometimes you just don't know where to begin. Well, classical music is always going to be a great place to fuel that inspiration. Hello, my name is Alberto Bave, and I'm the orchestral director here at Miami Dade College North Campus. And I came up with this project, Echoes of Inspiration. The purpose of this project was to really explore the reality of what classical music actually does. Whether it's the music of Beethoven, whether it's the music of Mozart, or even more modern composers such as Stravinsky, there will be something that speaks to you. And it's all about finding your own voice. But the only way that our voices is initiated is if we hear the voice of someone else speak to us. I believe that classical music is the source of that speaking. It's the well that we're all going to draw from and say something of our own that is very personal, very much our own.
I think there's a lot of ideas you can gather from composers in the past that can give you avenues to put new ideas to music.
You think about someone like John Williams, for instance, like everyone can remember his great melodies. Well, they're not just because he's a really great composer, I mean, he is, of course, but it's because he models it after these early classical composers. There's a symmetry, there's a shape to it. It sort of rhymes. And so that's all from that area. That's all, that's all that he's doing. That's all that anyone who's worth their salt is doing.
The title of Echoes of Inspiration, it really speaks to what this project is all about. Many times we are inspired, but we're essentially echoing something that we heard. Sometimes we're literally echoing a voice that was previously said. But more importantly than the echo is the inspiration behind our voice. Where does that inspiration come from? It's from that classical music.
So Horizon it's funny, it's an older thing for me. It's the third piece of music that I've ever written. It was for a little chamber orchestra thing. My friend Preston, who's a filmmaker, he needed music for his student film. And I lived down the hall from him, and he was like, hey, you want to write this? The movie, I think, was only like 5 or 6 minutes long, but it's a silent film, so there's no dialogue. And the music really has to carry a lot of the narrative weight.
So I've always been fascinated with music, especially soundtracks, because to me, that music tells a story. It helps further a narrative, and that fascinates me. It wasn't until I joined this class that I actually did something serious with it and did the Charlie Chaplin composition, which was composing over an old Charlie Chaplin film called The Champion, where basically he is in this boxing ring. And I had an absolute blast composing the soundtrack for that and helping to tell that story and giving little leitmotifs or themes to each of the different characters. composer hears his piece of music for the first time, it's really incredible. The jump from the computer software and the simulated tones of music to actual humans creating the music. When someone plays the music is one of the biggest joys a composer can feel when hearing their music for the first time in live.
I wasn't thinking about Moonlight Sonata when I was composing my piece. I mean, I heard it, but it came out somehow out of, I don't know, my soul. I don't know.
Julia's piece, Double Game, is clearly two separate personalities, almost like a bipolar composition, because it's two completely different personalities, but there's a contact, there's a structure where these are coexisting.
The original idea was to convey a dialogue between narcissist and an empath. First personality is a narcissist with his mood swings. You know, that's why my music is so different in first part. And second part is an empath.
You can hear in the music, it's constantly shifting keys, right? You can feel that there is a double personality happening in the piece.
In addition to being the orchestral director at Miami Dade College, I'm also the assistant conductor at the University of Miami, where I'm not only working but also pursuing my doctoral degree. And I thought inviting Miami Dade College students, my students who are interested in composition, bringing them to the University of Miami would be a great idea for them to experience classical music and really have something triggered within them that would inspire them to say something of their own.
Well, when you go to live performances, you really get the feeling from the music, the emotion that it's meant to portray, and you want to replicate that similar emotion in your own compositions.
Bringing students to the University of Miami really provided them with an opportunity to say something, to hear something that they later can either echo or, more importantly, say for themselves. because that's the ultimate goal in music, is to find your voice and use your voice to speak to the masses. I'm also the conductor of the Miami Chamber Orchestra, where we perform at Florida International University. And recently we had a piano competition, the Teresa Carreño International Piano Competition. And the finalists were selected to play with the Miami Chamber Orchestra, and each one had a different piece that they prepared. And I took advantage to invite my students to listen to the concerto, because the piano concerto, it's a particular language.
Because the piano, obviously, it's like a mini orchestra, right? I mean, it's arguably got a wider range, but there's so many things that you can do in the piano.
The piano is a central instrument, and it has an orchestra accompanying, sometimes repeating, once again, echoing the ideas of the pianist, but more importantly, having a conversation back and forth.
It's something that I think is missing from our age of constant instant music. Whenever we want on our phone, we can listen to our earbuds. It's very different when you go to a concert or to a performance and you feel the sound, you know? Not just sound coming in your ears, but you feel it in your body, like the resonance.
A lot of that experience that they had with the Miami Chamber Orchestra accompanying the finalists at Florida International University, a lot of that language that they experienced, it's clearly evident that they reflected it in their own music.
The composition is called Farewell to Rome. It's a waltz.
Blake's piece, Farewell to Rome, interestingly enough, he's one of my more unique students because he reads Shakespeare. And this was actually a piece written for Julius Caesar.
The piece starts off very somber, and throughout his funeral, Mark Antony can be seen trying to rally up people against Brutus. So throughout the waltz, you hear all these little motifs that they build more tension as the piece progresses. We're all unique. I like basing my music on literature and events.
It was really interesting to see him write what the text meant to him. He was communicating something that he read in the text. So essentially he is echoing something that inspired him, but he's saying it in a different language. He's repeating what he read musically.
It's a really exciting piece, and I love how he flexes and really shows off the piano's range.
was strongly influenced by classical composer Ludwig Beethoven, and my favorite Beethoven piece for Alice.
So Adelia's piece is a great piece that shows form, and it definitely is hailing back to like classical style of music. Definitely, you could tell that she's a fan of a little bit of romantic music, a little bit of classical. She tries to channel a little bit of Mozart, a little bit of Bach and Beethoven, which is great. It goes back to the roots of what compositional design is all about. Every student has their unique voice, right? So what we try to do here at MDC is, we try to encourage them to get and find their voice and find their style. So a lot of the things that I end up doing is also getting them to really feel comfortable in the style that they're trying to write, and also bring out all of the emotional elements that they're trying to convey in their music as clear as possible.
We listened to their MIDI mock-ups, right, and I got to see their scores. And then I got to talk with them about, ideas that they, maybe hadn't thought about, or, things that I, could see like, hey, maybe this would be more effective if you did this, or this is gonna go a little smoother if you did this. Things that, if you haven't, had a chance to really like train as a composer, you might not think about.
You could totally tell the students are very invested in what they're doing, and they're trying to communicate and connect with their audience. So, you have music that ranges from music that can be soft. The music is sometimes more exciting. The music sometimes is louder. Sometimes the music is angry. It expresses a range of emotions.
Music is simply a language. What's the purpose of the language? The purpose of the language is to communicate a message. And when we write music, we need to focus on what the message is and make sure that everyone understands it.
I just feel that this year the students really worked really hard to try to convey a personal message in their music.
If our voice is clearly heard by others, it will be clearly understood. But when we talk about listening and hearing in terms of music, it's a deeper language. It's a universal language. It's something that speaks from our souls. It's way deeper.
I wrote this piece, Uncharted, with the idea of adventure. And that's why you hear this main theme that is throughout the entire piece, and it's supposed to be this idea of adventure.
Uncharted was a piece that when Brian approached me and told me that he had something, was really, really captivating to me, because I heard it definitely like a film score or even a video game score. It was very, very dramatic.
Kind of gives you this battle sort of a sense, right? You're going into war almost eventually. What's more frightening than hearing a bunch of fifes and drums, right? It's flutes and drums coming at you.
I think Beethoven has these ideas. They're very, very melodic, and they play around with each other, like all these different melodies. That's what I was trying to do in Uncharted.
Definitely using the techniques of Beethoven, whether he knows it or not. He developed each one of these themes, and it just started to unravel. one of the evidences of a well-written theme is that people are humming it when they leave the concert hall or the movie theater. And this piece has that. And anyone listening to this can ask this question at the end of the piece: do they remember the main theme? And I'm willing to bet that they will, that the answer is going to be yes to that question.
I think right now my favorite composer is Stravinsky. He has these moments in his music that are very rhythmic, very, I can say, tribal. I was thinking of trying to implement Stravinsky's ideas with like the rhythmic sections. Like near the end, there's this big tribal section with the strings and the percussion, and I was trying to implement his ideas within my piece.
Classical music, as we know, has shaped basically how we think and perceive music, right? Music is not just random sounds on a page, it's not just random things happening. There's organization, there's form, there's style, there's design, there's contour, dynamics.
Well, I think classical music shapes modern music and it teaches you structure. So modern music can stray from that structure as it needs, but it has that framework.
It's essential. It's a literal treasure trove of ideas and textures.
Classical music, to me, is one of the best ways to express yourself and convey story and to convey a narrative.
I can't think of any greater place to go when you need inspiration.
So if there's one thing I could teach my students, that they will always have that source available to them. Anytime someone needs inspiration, and this is true beyond music. If you're in an office and you need a little inspiration to get your work done, to focus during an exam on a test, classical music will always be that source. Classical music will always be that solution for everyone. And if we're wise, we'll use it to its full capability.